everybody, and welcome back to the All Right Podcast. Remember, it's not the best podcast, but it's not the worst podcast. It's just an All Right Podcast. Guys, welcome back to another episode, and another episode at that. We're back with another banger. Now, we have our guest, but before I introduce the guest, guys, I'm going to introduce the co-host, as always, James Bourne. How's it going, James? What's up?
Hello.
You're well? So James is here to make sure I don't do anything stupid or say anything stupid. But I guarantee you'll still let me do that. And also, we have the guest of the evening here, Rian, Glynn, please. I'm so sorry if I said that wrong. Please,
no, you
okay?
said it right.
Yeah, okay, grand, perfect. So do you want to do a bit of introduction of yourself, please?
Geez. I don't know. I'm comedian, I suppose, is how you know me mostly.
Mm-hmm.
I do a bit of acting, a bit of directing, backgrounds in sport. So I don't know how I ended up here, but here we are.
Lovely. Okay, we have so much to talk about. So I wanted you on because I did when we went. I think it was at the live sessions in Maynooth. I seen you do a gig. It was for the very last gig in the live Maynooth sessions, and you done your set on stage. And me and my girlfriend were actually in the front row. We were watching it, and I found it really funny. So I was like, right, I want to get him on at some stage. But yeah, I want to go back to when your younger days or so when. When did you kind of start getting an interest in comedy, and when did you start like kind of pursuing that?
Well, I got an interest when I was a really, really young kid. I think it was my grandparents. There was a VHS of Brendan Grace floating around the house somewhere, and I think it came from my grandparents' house or either an uncle's house or something like that. And I loved that. I completely wore that VHS out. And then just ever since then, I really, really liked stand-up comedy anyway. So I kind of hoovered up and watched as much as I could, international comedy, Irish comedy, whatever it was. I'd find clips on YouTube and stuff like that. But it took me a long, long time to get into it, like a really, really long time. Like I'd wanted to do it for ages. Like I'd done quite a lot of theatre and stuff like that, and I wanted to kind of get into comedy. But for various reasons, I just kept putting it off. And then eventually a school friend of mine who's in comedy now, she did her first ever gig and she posted something about it online, and I sent her a message, and it was Cherry Comedy in Whelan's. They used to do a thing where they reserve a spot on their Monday show for someone who'd never done comedy before. So she sent me the link for that, and I still hummed and hawed about it for, I'd say, about 4 or 5 months before I actually signed up to do it. And then they sent an email back being like, just so you know, there's like a 6-month waiting list. And I was like, I was like, cool, that's grand. I was like, 6 months, I can, maybe write some stuff and try it out with my friends. And then I got an email like 2 weeks later being like, could you come in like a week and a half? And I was like, yeah, shit, okay, sure.
Yeah. So for the likes of that, when you were saying you were watching Brendan Grace and so on the VHS,
classic comedy,
literally. Was he the one that kind of introduced you to it then? Was he the one that was the first time you ever watched the kind of stand-up show, or was
that was the first kind of stand-up that I'd ever seen. I must have been, I don't know, 7 or 8 maybe.
Jesus.
When I saw that VHS first time. Yeah, that's gone back a long time. Well, not too long, but long enough. So he was the first one, and I think the next kind of big one that really stuck out for me then was a cousin of mine lives in New York, and his brothers were over visiting him. And when they came back, they'd bought all these DVDs for the Chappelle show, Dave Chappelle's sketch show.
Brilliant.
I remember, I watched a good few episodes at the time before I had to go home. And then I was searching everything about the Chappelle show. And then it was like, oh, he's a stand-up comedian as well. So I started finding all his clips online as well. So it's kind of like Brendan Grace and Dave Chappelle were the first two that I kind of like, Jesus, this is amazing to watch.
Yeah, that's a perfect introduction as well, isn't it? Also.
Really...
I love Brendan Grace, man, for the story. He's a great storyteller. Well, he was a great storyteller, and the voices you do on stage and so on, the characters that you do. And I remember the first time I remember watching him, man. I was in an ex-girlfriend's house. I was staying over, and I was on YouTube, and I was literally scrolling through it, and I seen it, and I was, what's this? And it said stand up or like Joe Best Bits or clips. So I clicked onto it, and it was about the bottler. When it was
Bottler's brilliant.
I think a lot of people, when they first see him, that's the first thing they see, that character, and they get hooked on it. And then I just start watching more and more of him, and I was like, he's so good. But he was a few years ago, he was supposed to play in Maynooth. He was supposed to play where was it? It was in the hotel, Joe, right beside
the
the
Glen
train
Royal,
station.
yeah.
He was supposed to, and I was going to get tickets with my girlfriend, and we were going to go and see him, and we just never did. And then sadly, he died
Yeah,
after.
that's kind of it's one of my regrets is I never took the opportunity to go see him, go see him live.
The first one that ever seen, and you
yeah.
come see him. My like I was growing up, man. I was watching like Lee Evans and stuff like that, you know. And Lee Evans, he was the first ever stand up I've ever watched, and it's just his voices he does and the impressions and his facial expressions. And like that's the reason I was like, man, I'd love to do that. I'd love to be on stage in front of everybody like that. But then that's when I started. I done it when I was 18. I'm 24 now, and I started when I was 18.
Yeah.
When I was 18, then I stopped. It was kind of like a little hobby, and then I goes, right, I want to get back to it. But I start doing it again. It was only this year, and then all of this happened. So I'm like, shit, man, I want to fucking go off and try to do something, and I can't but when you
no, it's. I was the same. I kind of took a break, and I was involved with other things outside of comedy, and they were meant to finish up at the end of April, and I had all these gigs lined up for April, and I had, X, Y, and Z in my head. I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do the other, and I didn't even get to my first gig in April. I think I was one day away from it, and they were just like, "Yeah, no, we're cancelling all the gigs." I was like, "Oh God."
Yeah. It
frustrating.
is a bummer, isn't it? Because James, you're going to college to do theatre, aren't you? You're doing acting, so we don't know what it's going to be like when.
Well, can I just ask you this now? I'm comfortable going up on stage with a group of people, like no bother. But what is the mentality you have to go up on stage? It's not like being up there like nearly like a firing squad kind of feeling to it.
Not really. Like I like before I came to comedy, like it was theater and sports were my kind of my bag, and no, like performance is performance regardless of what the medium is. Like once you're comfortable in what you're doing up there, once you know what you're doing, that's I've never really had an issue with that. Like the nerves don't get to me a huge amount. Like I feel them, but I don't let them override my performance. But the one thing with comedy that's obviously different is the feedback is immediate, like you have if you're doing a play or something, and if the audience aren't into it and it doesn't go well, and it happens no matter again, like it happens in sport and in comedy, like you can kind of go into the backstage and with the cast and the directors, and you can kind of like mull it over for a few minutes and pick yourself up and kind of set your sights. But when you're on stage and for comedy and like
you're in the moment,
and especially when you're in your head like this joke is going to kill, and then it's just tumbleweeds and crickets.
Like
no, I don't know. It's I've this discussion a lot with people as well, though, because I have a lot of friends who are musically inclined and musicians and stuff like that, and I can't envision getting up and playing music on stage. Like I play a bit of music myself, and I've played on stage a few times, but I absolutely hate it. I despise it. I do not enjoy the process at all, and I can't envision going up and writing my own songs and doing something like that. Whereas they'd say the same to me about comedy. Like they can't envision writing jokes and going up and saying it. Like
you kind of have that. Yeah, you have to be in that mindset as well, don't you? Especially when you're going up to perform. Also, can I ask you? Did you what was your first ever gig you done that went bad when you thought it was going to go good? Like your first ever bad? Because before all this happened, all this quarantine, I was doing the same jokes, doing the same routine. And the very last gig before all this happened, I went up on stage, and it was the first time actually properly bombing on stage.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing I've done since all this. So I'm kind of like, when I get back into it, I'm like, oh shit, what's going to be like? But for the likes of yourself, I'm pretty sure you had good sets, because the set I seen you do was fucking great. So could you remember the first ever time you bombed, and what did you feel, and how did you kind of overcome it?
So ironically enough, the first time I bombed, it was doing the set that you saw me do there a few weeks ago. And it was the first time that I'd ever done that set. So I've had that set for about a year now. So it was the first time I'd ever done that set. And I was doing it in a club in Dublin, and it just did not land. And there was a variety of reasons why it didn't land. I wasn't fluid enough with it. The gig, I was last on the night, and the gig was running 45 minutes late by the time I got on. And it was a hot and stuffy room, and just I wanted to go home, the audience wanted to go home, all this kind of stuff. So and I was so annoyed with it, like, because I knew in my head that it was a decent set. Like I wouldn't go out of my way and say it was a great set, or it was a really good set. I just knew in my head it was a decent set. So I kind of I recorded the gig anyway, and I looked back over it, and I kind of noticed things that I could have picked up, and I just said, right, next time, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to put these little changes in, make it a little bit more fluid, and yeah, it's worked. And I've kind of I try not to repeat the same sets too regularly, so I've only had it out maybe 3 or 4 times, but besides that one time, it's kind of one of those sets that I generally know I can go back to and get a few laughs out of. The only problem is, because I use graphs and stuff with it, if I don't have my graphs with me and a set is going bad, I can't pull it out with the bag. That's the issue. That's it. That's the downside of it.
Yeah, I wanted James here. He makes comedy sketches, and he is really funny. Like, I think he's really funny. And I said to him only recently that I think he should give stand up a go, because he does write. He could write his own jokes, and I know he could. But for someone like James, or even myself, because I'm only starting off, what advice could you give us? The best advice when you're starting off?
I don't know if I'm the best person to be taking advice from. I don't know. Like, don't get too disheartened if it's not working. I mean, it's like, sometimes you see these people and they're like, oh, you're gonna suck the first few times you go up, which you may not. You might be pretty good actually the first few times you go up, and sometimes that could be worse when you inevitably do bomb, because you kind of been thinking, geez, like, how did it get so bad so quickly? So just enjoy it and kind of take it all in your stride, and you like try and take on advice from anywhere you can find it, or anything like that. Like, if you can, there's lots of resources online where you can get information and advice. There's just talking to other comedians, and that's kind of one thing I noticed when I started gigging, was that when you're kind of waiting around before and after shows and you're chatting to the other people that have been on stage, is that they will know some of your jokes if they've seen you previously, and sometimes like they'll be willing to kind of help you craft a better joke or get a better punchline out of it. Like, so don't be, if someone offers you advice, don't be kind of,
Don't take offense.
Don't take offense to it if someone offers you advice, because everyone, like, it is a competitive world. Obviously, there's limited amount of spots, and everyone's trying to get their time. But everyone's also like really friendly, in my experience. Anyway, everyone's always been really kind of friendly and really willing to help out if there's a bit that's not working and you're trying to figure out why. Everyone's kind of willing to spitball ideas.
Yeah. I when I start doing it in Main Youth, and then I start going into KO Comedy Club and stuff like that as well. I found like nothing but literally nothing but love. That's what it was. That's what I describe it as, because they were so helpful. Like, and especially Ali O'Rourke, she was really helpful to me. She was giving me so many tips. She was telling me what to do. She was telling me that I kind of had this joke for a while, and now I put it into like a one-liner, and I had a whole bit about it. So she goes, just keep doing that, and kind of write about stuff that's happening around you and so on, what's going on. Because I got invited to Navan by Stephen Norton, and a few of us went down. And I'd done the set, but it was the first ever time, because I'd usually do defaults. That's what I'd call them. My default jokes is what you do. They kind of, you're comfortable with. But then when I seen the crowd actually liking it, I was supposed to go on for 10 minutes. And I know this is bad. I don't think I should have done it. But I was supposed to go on for 10 minutes. I went on for like 15 minutes, almost 20 minutes. And I had new material. But the first ever time, that's why I want to ask you as well. The first ever time you tried new material on stage, and it was great. You got a good response. That's a response as well. What's that kind of feeling as well? Can you describe that? When you're putting new jokes out and you're hoping that'll do good, and that actually does good.
Yeah, no, that's a drug. That's what that is.
Yeah.
But that's the same with when you're in theater or something like that, and the performance goes well. Just that immediate response, that audience response is amazing.
Get on a high, like.
Yeah, that's it. And like the first ever gig that I did went really, really well, in my estimation anyway. Like, and there was some really, really good comedians on the bill, and I went up halfway through the second act, and again, I don't know, they never actually explicitly said how much time I had, so I ended up doing 8 minutes, but I was so so nervous at that time that like I couldn't see the audience. It was like just black in front of me, so they could be flashing a light for all I know.
Yeah.
And I have no idea. But yeah, like that, I got really like a much better response than I expected for that. And like that was, it's such a highlight, because it's, again, like there's something different about when you've written the jokes yourself and you've gone out and done it yourself, and you get that response. It's I don't know, it's difficult to explain. Like when you're on stage in theater and the script is good and the rest of the cast are good and the direction is good and the audience loves it, that's a great feeling. But when you've written something yourself and you go out and you do it yourself and the audience really, really likes it, and maybe that's just me being narcissistic, that I'm like, oh, they love me, not just everyone involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it's a very difficult feeling to top.
Yeah, for the likes of that, I said on stage, like, if people were saying, how do you go up on stage and do that? Were you not terrified? And I go, you are terrified. Before I'm over in the corner, almost taking an anxiety attack. Like, but then when you go up on stage, it's like you just zone. It's literally just zoning in, and you say, right, I'm gonna do this material. And when you start hearing them laughters and you're getting all them laughs, the best way I describe it is like literally laughter. To me, I know it's like kind of cheesy, but it's like, to me, like, laughter is like the cocaine of comedy. Do you get me? It's literally like that one, and you hear the laugh, yes, and then you just improve so much better. But for the likes of the theatre as well and acting, James, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask as well? I think James is frozen.
I don't know if he's frozen or if he's asleep.
Well, if James comes back into it, we'll ask him. But because James is going into acting now, and he's going into
build up your confidence.
Yeah. So there he is now. Hurry, James.
He's back.
I don't think he is.
No, he's gone again.
Yeah, he's gone. About that, people, we kind of had a little thing going on there. But anyway, James, because you're going into theatre as well, and you've already done a year, but you said you're going to go back and do it. Is there anything you would like to ask as well?
Like, how did Rian, how did you actually like build up the confidence to go ahead, like going back to your very first show?
How would I build up the confidence? As in, like, to apply for it, or getting on stage? No,
just because obviously you would have spent a bit of time before you went and did your first show, like to actually go ahead and do it. What, like, did you have to build yourself up for it, or did you just kind of go in and do it?
It was kind of a bit of both, in that when they sent me the email being like, yeah, can you come in on whatever, it was like 2 weeks notice or something like that. At first I was kind of like, oh crap, right, I better write something. And then I kind of wrote some stuff and I was like, no, okay, we're good. Just practice it, rehearse it, it'll be fine. And then when I got to Whelan's that night, and it was getting closer and closer to me going up on stage, I was absolutely bricking it. Which is unusual for me when it comes to a performance sense, in that generally, like I said, I'll feel nerves, but I don't let them override my performance. I accept them. They're part of performing in any aspect. But I kind of reminded myself that, look, this is something you want to do, so you have to try it at some point. And B, you're pretty confident in what you've written and what you're doing. So the only thing is to go up there and test it and see how well it works out. And thankfully it worked out well. If I'd completely butchered it and bombed it, I might have never gone back and done another gig. I don't know. But I don't know. Like, it's just a matter of accepting that it's something you got to do. If you want to get better at comedy, you got to get up and keep going and learn from what's working and learn from what's not working, and don't get too disheartened by a bad reaction. I mean, there's a variety of reasons why a crowd won't go with you. It could be that your jokes just aren't where they need to be. It could be it could be that the audience is tired if it's been a long gig. It could be anything. So don't take it personally. Like. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm the best person to give that kind of advice. Like, I'm still relatively new to the game myself, but just sit back and relax and enjoy the ride for the most part is all I can really say in it.
And for the likes of
Yeah,
theatre and
cool.
stuff and all, what have you been in so far that you're most proud of for the likes of plays and so?
Well, what I'm most proud of actually was I directed a play called Alone It Stands. There, it was my first time directing a full length play, and I actually was directing at the same time I was starting comedy, which was probably a bit mad to be doing the two things at the same time. But it's a play I loved, and it's a play about when Munster beat New Zealand in the 1970s, and it's based around the match. It's based around the stories of some of the players, the stories of people living in Limerick and stuff like that. But it was such a well-received show the first time we did it. And then we decided, originally I kind of thought, oh, we'll bring it back maybe because the Rugby World Cup was on last year. Like, we'll bring it back and maybe do 4 or 5 nights, because like the cast, again, really, really loved it. And we started talking about it, and then we broached the idea of there's the All-Ireland Festival circuit, which is where you go out and you perform in about 7 or 8 different festivals across Ireland. And then there's an All-Ireland competition that you have to qualify for at the end of it. And we applied for that. So we got into, I think we had 8 festivals in total, all through the month of March.
Cool.
And again, we were getting really, really good responses, and we were coming up to our 3rd festival and everything got shut down. But yeah, no, I was really, really proud of that. Really proud of the cast as well. Like, I've said it before, like I got really, really lucky with the cast that I had. Because if you look at the script for that play, it doesn't make sense, because there's so much movement and there's so much choreography and there's so much just instant moments that suddenly jump to something else that you don't have time to kind of extrapolate, and you don't have time to build on it. So it just has to be very bam, bam, bam. So I got very lucky that kind of when I'd come into rehearsals and I'd be saying, okay, so what you need to do is you need to run up here, shout this, then run over there and crawl through this person's legs, and then get helped up, and then go over there and then do that bit. And people were just kind of like, yeah, that sounds fine, we'll go do that right now. So no, I was really, really proud of that. Really, really proud of that. And then yeah, I don't know, like I've been involved in a lot of things, and I'm always proud of them for various reasons. Like, there's never one that kind of sticks out as being, you know, the main one that I go, oh yeah, that's the best. Like, I've always tried to challenge myself in a different way when I'm doing something. And like, I always kind of, if I can rise to that challenge that I've set myself, I'm always kind of really happy with it. Like, so yeah, but I think, yeah, the play that I was directing is definitely one that sticks out anyway, probably more so than the rest of them, but they're all, like, everything that I've done, I've been really, really happy with.
Me and James started our own kind of, like, we got a group of friends, and I really like writing scripts and making short films. And I made a short film called The Lotto Ticket, and I got James. That's how I met James. I got him to star in it, and that was over a year ago when we wanted to start doing that. Like, But for the likes of yourself, when you were doing theatre and all, were you in any short films or so, or did you have any ideas to write your own short film and direct it?
I was in one short film. It was a student film with the students in Maynooth University, and that was kind of the person who directed it and wrote it. I kind of knew her at the time. I know her a lot better now through theatre. But yeah, that's kind of the only short film I've been in. I think it's something I'd love to do it, and it's kind of I have all these ideas for scripts and stuff like that, and there was one. There was one idea. I'm not saying anyone ever plagiarized us on this, but there was one idea when I was 17 or 18. Myself and my buddy Matt started coming up with this idea of a sitcom based around kind of a group of friends who had accidentally died, and it was basically their life in heaven.
Yeah.
And then we brought in another friend of ours, Rory, and we kind of started building on it, and we started coming up with all these madcap ideas. This is 12 years ago we started writing this, and last year I was looking for something to watch on TV, and I found The Good Place on Netflix. And literally every good idea we had was in there. And like such a similar concept as well, because obviously there's the characters in that are dead as well, and like in no way am I claiming that the people who came up with that show plagiarized us. But I was like the one thing that I really felt had legs and had a possibility of being.
To us.
That's it. Whereas like they like the one thing that I felt like had the possibility of being something, and like we had it mapped out. We were like 4 seasons with, I think it was like 8 or 10 episodes, and we knew how it was ending, what beats we were hitting, like everything. We just never got around to writing scripts or full scripts. We had bits of scripts and stuff like that, and it's my one regret that I'm kind of like, I wish we'd done something with that sooner. Like, because now it's if the opportunity ever came for that to be made, people would be like, that's just such a rip off of The Good Place. Come on.
You're like, no, I fucking wrote this. I wrote this.
I was there first. It was 2007. Believe me.
You have the proof anyway. If you was right and you have funny, you have the proof. You have the date. Me and James recently. This is what we started writing our own sitcom. We might as well during the quarantine and stuff like that as well. And we're on we're finished episode 3 now, on to episode 4. We're gonna do 6, isn't it? Yeah. For likes of that. Yeah. And it's just something interesting, because usually when I'm writing scripts, I write them on my own. So it was interesting to write a script with someone along, because we use Celtic. So
I use that myself.
It's so good. It's so
good. So good. Yeah. No, it's always a different kind of experience writing with people and writing by yourself. Like I wouldn't consider myself the best of script writers. I'd probably be a better ideas kind of guy.
Yeah.
And maybe I'd probably have a better mind for kind of keeping things on track. Whereas the other guys that I would write with would be much better at kind of building on the ideas and adding bits to it, and being able to develop it from like, you know, a page suggestion into a full length, into a full script, like, like it's a whole different. It's nice though when you can kind of bounce ideas off someone.
Yeah,
that's always my worry when I'm writing something on my own, that I'm kind of like, oh yeah, this could be absolute crap, and I have no idea.
Yeah, so you need that second opinion, don't you, when you're doing stuff like that? And that was the good thing about us as well, is that we had a character each, and I had to write the lines for my character, he had to write lines for his character, but we had to bounce off each other and make sure it made sense. So it was actually interesting for the both of us when we first started off, because the first time we ever done anything, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's just what we were trying to do with it really as well, make it feasible. So it was basically all going to be shot in Anthony's house.
Yeah.
So we're not really going to locations or anything. So we're trying to keep it as simple as possible, but also keep it funny as well. Like,
it's the humor. It'd be a comedy. It'd be a comedy. It'd be about a guy that he can't afford to rent on his own, so he needs to rent a room out, but it's only like literally a 1-bedroom flat, and he needs someone out for the likes of that. Right, so we're gonna. I know. I'm kind of slide into the next segment now, but Zoom has told me that I have 10 minutes left, before the 40 minutes is up. So we're gonna get into the next segment, and this is the last segment of the podcast, guys. This is ghost stories. Ooh, scary. Right. Okay, this is my favorite segment, okay? And any guest that comes on, and I don't care what we're talking about, it could be anything. I always go to this segment at the end. Please, right? So I have 2 questions for you. 1, do you believe in the afterlife or anything like that? And 2, do you have a ghost story? If so, please tell it.
Do I believe in the afterlife? Jeez, that's a loaded question. Christ almighty, you could have told me this was coming up.
I tell no guests. I tell none of them, and they're all like, what the fuck?
Do I believe in the afterlife? God, I don't. Probably I don't. I'd like to believe in reincarnation. That'd be nice.
You're the third guest now in a row that said that they'd like to believe in that, or they believe in it, and it's
come back as a butterfly would be, you know, even a slug would be nice.
A slug, lovely, lovely.
Look, everything's got a purpose, like.
And do you have any stories you can tell, or anything freaky that ever happened to you that you couldn't explain, or so? Or do you know anyone
I'd one freaky story.
Yes, let me hear it.
And it just, to this day, I can't explain it.
Right.
So for the sake of, I suppose, consideration to other people, I'll try and keep it relatively vague and not give away too many details without gutting the crux of the story. I was very sick with tonsillitis a few years ago, and I got really bad dose of tonsillitis, had huge fever and stuff like that. And I was having all these mad hallucinogenic dreams. And I had a dream that I was at a funeral, and a friend of mine was playing Tears in Heaven, the Eric Clapton song, at the funeral. He was performing it because he also knew the person that died. And the weird thing was, the person that died in this dream, I kind of knew them, but I didn't know them. I'd say I probably had 2 conversations with them in my entire life.
Yeah.
But I knew they would have been friendly with other people that I knew. So they would have been around, like, so that kind of dream was ongoing. And then I was woken up by this buzzing, and it was like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was my phone, and I answered the phone, and the person that I was dreaming about had died that night.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
No.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Holy
genuinely
shit,
had
that
in
is
my heart.
freaky.
So that was one thing. And like, it was, to this day, it's still the thing that I'm kind of like, because the person that died, I don't want to say I wasn't friends with them in a mean way.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't, I just, we were not in the same social circles.
Knew them. You knew of the, you knew them. So
yeah. But I wouldn't have been friendly with them. Wouldn't have had them on Facebook or anything like that. Like, so that was the one time that something's happened to me that I went, Jesus, that's fucking
that's
a bit
fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit weird. Like,
what the fuck, James? That was one of the freakiest ones we had, yeah.
No, that was a bit.
What the fuck?
And he wasn't even trying to make it sound scary. It was just like, yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
that happened,
Fucking hell.
Fucking hell.
Well, there you go, guys.
Happened, and can't change that it happened, and we can't change what happened, unfortunately. So you just kind of live with it.
Jesus fucking Christ, I wouldn't be able.
There you go.
But anyway, guys, so that is it for this podcast. They are only half an hour podcasts. So so Rian, thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
No bother.
Thank you.
No bother.
And James, thanks very much for coming on and doing co-host once again. I really appreciate it. I will leave all your links in the description below. So guys, if you want to go check them out, I'll leave all the links down below. Guys, so this has been another episode of the Alright Podcast. And remember, before you go, it's alright. Wait, James, hold on. It's not the best podcast, but it's not the worst podcast. It's just an alright podcast. Guys, this is not my podcast, and let's go, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and peace.